I'm Diane from Migrante BC. And I will be your MC today, your facilitator. And on behalf of my organization, Migrante BC, and our community partners and other organizations here, we thank you, we thank everyone for joining us at this conference. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge that we are gathered here on the unceded stolen lands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh Nation as Filipino migrants will live, work, and struggle as settlers on these lands, and we recognize that our own people's displacement and migration are rooted in colonialism and corruption. And we connect our struggle for justice in the Philippines with the struggles of the indigenous peoples here for sovereignty, land, and dignity. Our liberation is bound together. And we also would like to call Ms. Beth Liaga to lead us in a short prayer.
Let us pray. O Lord God, O Allah, unite us together around the principles of justice, peace, love, and faith. O God most strong, give us the strength to protect and care for our neighbors. Make our hearts and minds aware of our heritage, fulfilling duties and responsibilities as a citizen of the Philippines and our host country. In Christ's name, in Allah's name, Amen.
Why are we here today? Yeah. Bakit nga ba tayo nandito ngayong araw na ito? At iba-ibang grupo ang nandito sa ating conference. We are here today because the Filipino people, both the Philippines and abroad, are outraged. And recent revelations of massive kickbacks in the infrastructure projects have laid bare the depth of corruption under the current government and in past administrations. This corruption is not abstract. Every peso stolen should have gone to hospitals, to schools, to housing, jobs, to actual flood control projects. Instead, it deepens poverty, pushes families into desperation, and drives millions of us to leave our homeland in search of dignity and livelihood. And as migrant Filipinos in Canada, we refuse to remain silent while our hard-earned remittances prop up a system that exploits us, our kababayan back home, and while our loved ones back home suffer from corruption and abuse. And tomorrow, September 21, we join a global protest. We join the global protest actions. While the date reminds us all of martial law's legacy of dictatorship, today's most urgent concern is a scandalous and worsening corruption in the Philippines. And that is why we are raising our voices. Tama na! Sobra na! Okay, we will chat later. But for now, after all the speakers will present their statements, we can open some questions from the audience probably, or suggestions on how we will proceed tomorrow and the next few weeks and months as news develops in the Philippines. Our lineup of speakers include Professor Leonora Angeles, UBC professor, and a Bulacan. No, Bulacan is almost like ground zero of flood control projects and ghost flood control projects. And then we have Mr. Amado Mads Mercado III, alumnus of Ateneo de Manila and member of August 21 movement. We have Kevin Quicho of Anakbayan, BC, representing the youth sector. We have Ms. Beth Doliaga to give us solidarity statement from Kairos Ecumenical Justice Initiatives, which is a part of iChirp Canada. Mr. Amado Mercado Jr., Filipino-Canadian from Filipino-Canadian Construction Society and chairman of the Lenny-Eco Coalition in Vancouver. Mr. Arleto Miltan, Pinoy Pride Vancouver Society, a community of Filipino-Canadian LGBT plus folks where Filipino roots and queer resistance meet. Okay. We have Mr. Mark Perez, award-winning poet, community health worker, and representing Tama na Taong Bayan Ayaw sa Magnanakaw at Abusado Network Alliance. And we have Mr. Ago Pedalizo from Full Accountability Now, Coalition?
Coalition.
Coalition or fan coalition. Okay. Okay, for our first speaker, I would like to give the mic to Professor Leonora Angeles.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you for everyone who are here today. I just want to reiterate the connection that Diana said earlier between Canada and the Philippines with regards to the role of our remittances back home. I want to start with a personal connection, which was already mentioned. I'm from Bulacan, which is the epicenter of the issues that have unveiled recently. So the first district engineers of Bulacan, familiar names now, from Henry Alcantara, Bryce Hernandez, J.P. Mendoza, along with 11 other engineers and civil servants from Bulacan were named in the recent case using the anti-corruption law in the Philippines. And we have very good laws, except that they are all poorly implemented. So one of them is the godchild of my youngest brother, whose parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents we know. But what's new about this? So corruption naman is really, systemic in the Philippines. And I think we really need to dig deep into the systems and the pillars behind those systems that cause corruption. So what's new about this most recent cases? Number one really is the massive risk in flood control projects. I think this is the first time we have seen this at this massive scale with flood control as the source of corruption. And imagine the brazenness of this, the extent of lives, property, and livelihoods lost because of poorly implemented flood control projects. I think that's new, relatively new. The second really is the hyper elevation and depth of top to bottom, bottom to top corruption within DPWH, connected with key Senate, Congress, and provincial officials. And the involvement in this case, really the galamais who are getting billions, millions of pesos. Again, that scale we have not heard of, or at least we have not uncovered before. And lastly, the similarity in money laundering tactics between corruption within the bureaucracy and underworld criminal elements. And here I want to state the use of casinos in particular. Because in the past, it would be salting away dollars in some hidden wealth, right? Accounts in Switzerland, Geneva, or other tax havens. This is the first time we have really documented the use of casinos, which of course was preceded by the proliferation of POGOs in the Philippines. And so I just want to leave you with how do we understand this all in structural terms, in systemic analysis. I want to leave with you three concepts. The first one is what the Philippine left, particularly the National Democratic Movement, has been saying all along. The concept of bureaucratic capitalism, or bureaucrat capitalism, where bureaucrats themselves use their positions in power to accumulate capital and use that capital for conspicuous consumption, investments, launder this in ways so that it could not be traced to corruption anymore. The key concept we use in academia, similar to bureaucratic capitalism, is rent capitalism. Simply put, it's about turning political positions into economic opportunities. That's rent-seeking, and that's what's structural. Okay? It's not about just simple bureaucrats, right, making money, but it's the structure of rent capitalism. And at the foundation of this, what we have been seeing, the privatization of public resources and public works, is really predatory governance. What does that mean? When you govern and you are a predatory leader, you basically want to keep people in silence, keep them uneducated, ill-informed, and with less critical thinking, they will not say all the slogans that you have been saying earlier. Right? They will simply keep a rather stoic view of things and say, that's life. We have learned to live with it, and we are the most resilient people in the world. To revel in our resilience in a rather passive way is not going to make any systemic changes. And I think that's the downfall when we venerate resilience, particularly a form of inert resilience that makes the status quo simply get perpetuated. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Professor Nora Angeles from UBC in Bulacan. Thank you for sharing your personal story on Bulacan. And she also touched the concept of bureaucrat capitalism and red capitalism, them being in the position to accumulate capital and spend it however they wanted. And then Professor also touched on the concept of money laundering and through the casinos that are proliferating back home in the Philippines. For our next speaker. Later you can prepare your questions and we will take the questions for our speakers. Okay. For our next speaker, we'd like to call on Mr. Amado Mads Mercado III, alumnus of Ateneo de Manila and member of the August 21 movement or ATO.
Thank you, Diane. Professor Angeles, that was a very in-depth analysis of what's happening in the Philippines in terms of these issues that we are facing. So basically, tomorrow, September 21, is probably one of the biggest, most important things in terms of getting together, being in the streets since probably 1986. This astounding mass corruption that has happened under this administration is just mind-boggling. It's just in terms of how the people are reacting in the streets and how our youths in the Philippines are reacting to it. There's a different vibe. I can tell you this. It's a different vibe in terms of the outrage they have with obviously the politicians, because they are the ones that has I mean, they were the corporate of what's happening, basically of what's happening right now in terms of the issues with the DPWH. This issue alone was being talked about long before PBBM actually said the 15 companies, the construction companies that was involved in this massive corruption. So in hindsight, also was the budget insertions of some of these people we know in the Senate and in Congress. 9 billion insertion in the province of Bicol, and then 12 billion in Bulacan. I mean, that is a massive number we're talking about. We're not talking about millions, we're talking about billions. These are money that's supposed to be given to the poor, to our people that are in need. Now, moving forward, this concerns what people are asking for is change. Is basically they have to change the system. I mean, majority of who's going to participate tomorrow is not asking for PBBM to step down. It's just what they want is a systematic change of what's happening and the accountability and of those who are actually are in the Senate, that and the people that are under this issue of corruption with the public works and stuff like that. In a lot of ways, what's going to happen tomorrow is an indication what we Filipino would want for our future. So rest assured that, you know, our diaspora here in Canada and all over the world, and this very seeing pictures, seeing the sentiments of the people on the ground. A lot of our schools, UP, the school council, of course Ateneo walked out last Friday with so much force, and I was basically, we were all proud as everybody else is. LaSalle, I think, did the same thing. So we're seeing the youth now, knowing what's happening, and hopefully tomorrow's mass protest will show the government how we are very serious of what's happening, and we have to be vigilant in the next few days after tomorrow what the next step is. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, sabi ko yan, guys, tomorrow we will make history. Now, sa Pilipinas, they're doing history. Ngayong September 21 na nila. They're going to wake up and they're going to march to Luneta. They're going to march sa EDSA People Power Monument. So we will lend their voices on our September 21st. Tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. There's a mass, Anglican mass at the St. Mary the Virgin South Hill Anglican Church at 50th and Fraser. That's it. And then we will walk, do a solidarity walk, alay lakad of some sorts, from 50th to 41st along Fraser to invite our kababayans even more to the 3 p.m. program at the Joyce Collingwood Station. Are we going to fill up the whole, like, 4 corners of Joyce Collingwood Station tomorrow? Please, let's invite our family, our friends, our other organizations to come and support the Filipino people against, Filipino people in its fight against corruption. So, okay, tomorrow, a lot of people we're expecting. For our next speaker today, you know, just a backgrounder, it's not like we prepared this for weeks. We met some of our allies last Monday or Tuesday, so bear with us. And it's being coordinated through chat. But we're here, we showed up, and we're here to invite more of our kababayan to go to our mass rally tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. For our next speaker, for the youth sector, we have Kevin Each of Anakbayan, BC.
Yeah, I just want to start off by acknowledging that this year has been marked with so much tragedy in our community. We just spent months grieving together over Lapu-Lapu Day. Our migrants in our community have been scapegoated for the housing crisis while being constantly threatened by deportations. And of course, what brings us here now together, the flood control projects that continue to displace communities in the Philippines while politicians profit. As Tito Noel was mentioning, Filipinos are often just told to endure, to be resilient, while those in power face no accountability. Rodrigo Duterte's ICC trial was delayed. His daughter's impeachment was buried. Marcos Sr. continues to recuperate the stolen wealth from his family. If this year has taught us anything, it's that justice and accountability will never be handed down to us. And that's exactly why tomorrow we're going to be joining the tens of thousands of Filipinos across the world, not only to remember the past, but to confront the current corruption and plunder that continues today. The flood control scandals show that Marcos Jr. is following the same path of his father. Billions meant to protect communities from flooding have been stolen or wasted. Nepo babies flaunting their wealth while ordinary people drown. Poverty is rising, jobs are disappearing, and our schools are crumbling. what future is left for the Filipino youth? We only have to look at the proposed 2026 budget to see the truth. 1.5 trillion pesos is going to infrastructure projects, a massive target for corruption. 4.5 billion pesos is set aside for confidential funds. And 8 billion pesos is going towards the NTF-LCAC to red tape students and activists. Meanwhile, schools are overcrowded, teachers are underpaid and forced abroad, programs are being cut, and tuition is continuing to rise. It's no surprise that the current generation of Filipinos now ranks the second lowest in standardized test scores in the entire world. And we have to remember it was Sara Duterte herself who was heading the Department of Education while the system of education continued to collapse. For youth in the diaspora, this corruption is not distant. It is the very reason why our families were forced abroad. It's why many of us grew up without our parents. Even here as students and young workers, we carry the burden of remittances to prop up a government that refuses to provide jobs or education or protection. Our families are the ones that pay the price for the floods, in hunger and lives cut short. As youth, we refuse to accept a future built on corruption and repression. We remember martial law not only for its repression, but for the lessons it gave us. How the youth built a movement, stood by the workers and peasants, and through their collective struggle, forced change. If not for the people having risen up in '86, Marcos would have continued his plunder. If not for the mobilizations in '91, the US bases would have never been forced out. Every gain our people have won has come through struggle. This is why we continue to demand real accountability, not just the scapegoating of small officials while those at the top walk free. And our demands are clear. Marcos Jr. and Sara Duterte and all the corrupt officials must stand trial. End the confidential funds and abolish the NTF-LCAC. Redirect those billions to real services, to homes, to classrooms, and real disaster protection. Release the statement of assets, liabilities, and networks of all officials as is constituted by the Constitution. And once and for all, end political dynasties. The same forces of corruption and repression from martial law continue to exist, but so does our spirit of resistance. As a Filipino youth, we stand in solidarity with our kababayan back home, and we say, tama na, never again to martial law.
The kids are all right. We can say confidently that the kids are all right. You know, Kuya Matt was saying like the kids back home at the universities, and now we have Kevin and the rest of the youth organizations, not just Anak Bayan, am I correct? It's just not Anak Bayan, there are other organizations that are going to mobilize tomorrow, youth organizations. They're all right. So some of us here are part of EDSA 1. I'm an EDSA 2 baby. I was there when I was 16. So it's your turn now, Gen Z. Yeah. But yes. I also remember, he mentioned that everyone must be held accountable. And there's a chant there like, lahat ng sangkot dapat managot. Right? Remember, I know. Yeah, I'm probably fresh from the Philippines, but yes, this is a chant that we had for years on. Lahat ng sangkot dapat managot. Yes, thank you. And for our next speaker, we will have the solidarity message from the church to be delivered by Ms. Matt Baliaga.
Hey.
I'd like to share and read the solidarity statement of the Kairos Richmond Committee and the International Coalition for Human Rights in the Philippines, British Columbia. Today, with deep concern and moral urgency, the Kairos Richmond Committee and the International Coalition for Human Rights in the Philippines, British Columbia, stand in solidarity with the Filipino people and with the ecumenical movement who have taken a prophetic stand against corruption. The recent scandal involving the Department of Public Works and Highways is not an isolated incident. It is part of much deeper and systemic rot that has infected the very heart of governance in the Philippines, from pork barrel scams to pandemic funds siphoned from the people to overpriced projects granted to cronies. Corruption has thrived under past and present administrations alike. This betrayal of public trust has devastating consequences. It steals from the poor, undermines justice, and mocks the common good. It is not merely a failure, it is a moral sin that kills hope and entrenches inequality. As Pope Francis has said, corruption is paid by the poor. We are deeply troubled by the silence of those in the highest offices, in the evasion of accountability by lawmakers. Corruption cannot be blamed on one individual or one party alone. Presidents, senators, and congressmen, past and present, who allowed these systems of plunder to persist must be held accountable. As faith-based and human rights advocates in Canada, we echo the calls of the Filipino people, the church leaders, and people's movements, and the corruption that plagues government institutions. We call for accountability, transparency, and reforms that prioritize the common good over private gain. We commit to amplifying these voices internationally, holding the present government, Marcos Jr., and the past administrations to account, and standing with those who struggle for justice and dignity. We believe that gospel compels us not only to pray, but to act, to stand with those who resist oppression, and to build a society where power serves the people, not the privileged few. From here in Canada, we commit to raising awareness, amplifying the voices of Filipino communities, and demanding that public office be placed of service, not self-enrichment. To the Filipino people, we stand with you. We share your demand for justice, truth, and accountability. We are with you in your call that corruption must end, accountability must prevail, and integrity must guide leadership. As Amos, the chapter 5, verse 24 reads, "But let justice roll like a river, righteousness like a never-failing stream." This is our prophetic stand for righteousness, justice, and for the dignity of the Filipino people. Salamat po.
Yes!
Salamat po mula sa mensahe mula sa mga taong simbahan. Just reminded us of historically, remember the EDSA, the role of the church people during EDSA 1. And not only that, prior to that, opposing martial law at that time, and its role again in EDSA 2, its role now sa fighting corruption in the Philippines. We saw the press conference as well with different churches, reminding us that it's our moral responsibility to act, to fight against corruption. And now, I know some of us are part of different churches, and it's also a reminder to us to go to our churches and invite yung mga kapwa na nagsisimba natin, and even our priests, our pastors, to join us tomorrow on September 21. Because it's not enough to pray, it's because we have to act. Together, we will fight corruption. Okay. For our next speaker, we have Mr. Amado Mercado Jr. From the Filipino-Canadian Construction Society and the chairman of the Lenny Kiko Coalition in Vancouver.
Good afternoon to everybody. Pasensya na po kayo. Kasi pag napapag-usapan ng construction, tumatawa yung mga nakakasalubong ko. Nagpapakilala ko ako kasi na contractor ako, founding president ng Filipino-Canadian Construction Society. And then bigla silang tatawa. Bakit kayo tumatawa? Sir, sabi nila, malakas kayong kumita. Sabi ko naman sa kanila, dito iba. Bariya-bariya lang dito. Doon, iba. This is my tingin ko sa bansa natin. It is a dysfunctional government.
Yes.
Bakit? Why? Hindi lang flood control ang problema natin. Pero si Lord, binigyan tayong ulan. And then lumubog ang bansa. Lalo na yung Bulacan na kapitbahay namin. Kalumpit, Malolos, yan. Ginising tayo ni Lord. Kaya lumabas ito. Di ba totoo?
Yes. Oo.
Kaya naniniwala ko ito, binigay ng problema ni Lord, si Lord din ang tutulong sa akin. Now, corruption. Yung mga congressman hindi dapat silang mag-ano sa mga project. Lately, nag-research ako dito kakaiba. Sa municipal level lang pinag-uusapan and then may coordination with the public works. Ganun lang kasimple. Doon, nakikialam sila. Diba? Pork barrel, nawala na ang pork barrel during the time of Pinoy. And then, ginawa lang nilang, pinaiba lang nila. So, yun ang nakakalungkot. Marami tayong batas doon, hindi sinusunod. Walang accountability, walang, sorry to say, Bongbong, hindi mo kaya ito. Hindi mo kaya maging presidente. Umabot pa tayo doon sa trilyon na budget ng public works bago mo nakita. During the time of Pinoy, ang budget nila 1.8 billion lang with the span of 6 years. And then, eto, hindi ko sana babanggitin. Yung pumalit kay Pinoy, billion na. And then, eto na naman, si Bongbong, trillion. So, hindi pwedeng hindi ko ugatin kasi sabi nila, yung iba, pare-pareho lang yan. No, hindi. No. Kaya, uwi ako sa November. I have to connect with some politician there. I want to share my experience dito sa Canada na pwedeng gawin doon. Yung association nga namin, we are volunteering to the government there. May nagsuggest sa amin, isang member namin, we can contribute. Napakasimple ng problema doon kung talagang pero pera matakaw sila. Walang kabusugan. Sa amin sa Pampanga, merong isang congressman din. Kapitbahay ko si Nora namin. Ang big, I think, Pampanga and Bulacan, the two provinces na malaking budget. Wala. Maraming ghost project doon. Kaya, ang suggestion ko dito sa grupo natin, we will continue this hanggat walang makulong, maparusahan, ibalik ang ninakaw.
Yes!
Every month, magkaroon tayong ganito podcast. Nandito si Mr. Ago, magaling sa podcast yan. Siya mag-lead. Okay ka ba kayo doon?
Yes!
And then mag-connect tayo sa mga kakilala na doon kay Cielo Magno, kay Richard, and then sino pa ba?
Christian Esguerra.
Christian Esguerra, kakilala natin mga yan. Para ang boses natin,
Lamas.
malaman nila. May contribution tayo. Agree, Mr. Ago?
Yes!
Ikaw lang mamuno dyan. Okay, salamat po.
Salamat tayo.
Sabi ni Tika, tuloy-tuloy ito, hindi natatapos. Tomorrow, hindi natatapos today in this conference, we will continue calling for good governance because it's not just the flood control projects. It's not just ending corruption, it's also the system that
The
we have to change, and we have to call for good governance.
Good governance.
Yun yung mga future projects natin together. Okay? Sige. For our next speaker from the LGBTQ community is Darla Tonaldan.
Naimbag na aldaw ako. Magandang araw sa inyong lahat. Good afternoon. I'm speaking today on behalf of Pinoy Pride Vancouver Society, a fierce community of Filipino-Canadian LGBTQ folks where Filipino roots and queer resistance meet. Babasahin ko to kasi I tend to go all over the place and we have limited time, so this is to help me keep focused. Anyway, we're here because corruption in the Philippines isn't just a domestic issue, it's a global wound. It bleeds into our families, our futures, and our fight for dignity across borders. In my brief time today, I'm centering the voices of Filipino migrant workers, care workers, farmers, seafarers, nurses, and countless others. Labor that's often invisible, but always essential. This isn't just advocacy, it's testimony. I speak from direct experience, from countless conversations with workers who carry the weight of the Philippines on their backs. Pasensya lang kayo. Bit-bit ang bayan is what they usually tell me. Meanwhile, officials back home play hide and seek with billions and build imaginary infrastructure. Let me share a few truths. A care worker told me, I care for elders like they're my own. But back home, my own mother died alone. Another said, I clean their homes, raise their children, and care for the elders. But my own family is scattered, held together by remittances and video calls. A seafarer shared, I cross oceans for wages that vanish into recruitment fees. My kids know me by voice, not by hug. And a nurse reminds us, we're called heroes abroad, but back home our hospitals are crumbling. These aren't isolated stories, these are systemic truths. While Canada Immigration was busy dropping policy changes like surprise eviction notices, migrant workers were already organizing, already offering solutions. No consultants, no jargon bingo, just lived expertise. What's happening? 1.2 million permits are set to expire by end of 2025. That's just a few months from now. That's almost 3,000 a day. What migrant workers demand? To extend the permits to 2027 because lives are not seasonal. Permanent resident status for all, not just the preferred ones. Recognize all work types towards permanent resident eligibility, even the ones that keep the country running. What governments could do, that's if they're serious enough. In Canada, hire more Filipino settlement workers. Just recently, they've cut funding for Filipino settlement workers. Grant permanent residence on arrival. Here's a radical idea. Treat people like people. Enforce labor laws, not just write them. And for Philippines, the other end, end labor export. Filipinos aren't a commodity. Create real domestic jobs, not ribbon-cutting photo ops. Reintegration programs that mean more than a welcome home, TARP. Actually stop illegal recruiters, not just pretend to. They've named the problem, they've lived the consequences, and they've already offered the fix. So let's stop pretending. We need more studies. We need action. We need accountability. We need to follow the lead of those who've been carrying the Philippines all along. Bit-bit ang bayan, bit-bit din ang solusyon. To every caregiver, seafarer, nurse, and migrant who's carried the Philippines across oceans and through sacrifice, maraming salamat. Bitbit ang bayan in your hands, in your heart, and in every mile you've crossed. Now it's time the Philippines carries you back with justice, dignity, and action. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat sa lahat ng mga ating manggagawa na nag-lift ng ating bansa to our remittances, our communities to our remittances. Funny that you should mention the hospitals. Again, in Bulacan, there's a hospital that is already costing hundreds of millions, and yet, ang natapos pa lang is the foundation, and nababaha na rin po ang foundation, unfortunately. It should have been done this year, but it's still not done, and I think the metals are deteriorating because of the floods. Yeah, maraming salamat. Gusto ko lang parang these are the everyday things na na-experience sa ating mga kababayan. And ito yung mga pamilya natin sinusuportahan sa Pilipinas. Ako nagpapadala ako sa pamilya ko. Sino dito hindi nagpapadala sa families natin back home? Even not just family, just our community, our friends. Because hindi madaling mabuhay sa Pilipinas. And that is why we're here. We left the Philippines. We were forced. It's not like the Nepo babies who travel, jet set. Nandito tayo nagtatrabaho, we got deprofessionalized. Nagtrabaho tayo, nagsimula tayo from the pinakamababang trabaho, even though, some of us have been professionals in the Philippines. But we saw that we did not have a future in the Philippines because of the systemic problems, including corruption sa Pilipinas. And that's why yung kahalagahan din, that we lend our voices, kahit nandito tayo, let us be heard back home and around the world. Yun po. Maraming salamat po. Our next speaker, Mr. Alo Padalizo, for full accountability now.
I think, it's nice to chant, and let's have time to reflect what the chant is, because I think this is coming as a core of some level of conflict in the Philippines, but we wish to clarify things out. So when we say, lahat ng kurakot, panagutin. Right? Lahat ng kurakot,
Panagutin!
lahat ng kurakot,
Panagutin!
lahat ng kurakot.
Panagutin!
Alright, and then we're going to have more energy as we have the rally tomorrow.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, just to, again, this is what I tell the Philippines. They have two separate rallies, and of course they have the reasons for doing that. They have Luneta and they have EDSA. But coming from an OFW standpoint, we always tell them we're going to support both, right? But we always tell them we will only have a single rally in 15 states in 3 countries, US, Canada, and Australia. That's one thing sure. Of course, in Canada, you have Vancouver, Calgary, and Toronto. In Australia, you have Melbourne, Adelaide, Sydney, and Canberra. And in the US,
Queensland too.
oh, so that's going to be the additional Queensland. In the US, you have Chicago, Los Angeles, New York, Philadelphia, Portland, Queens, San Francisco, Seattle, and Washington, D.C. And of course, thanks for Malaya and Bayan for organizing those. So that's Malaya and Bayan, and how does not Filipino, but Full Accountability or FAN now coalition fits in? The FAN is, it's a coalition, meaning all the groups in the US, Canada, and Australia. Of course, you have Malaya and Bayan and all its subsidiary, all its connecting groups. You have USPGG, you have Filipino American for Human Rights, you have GTAN, Global Transparency and Transformation Network, you have Australians for Philippine Human Rights Network. And of course, if some other groups here want to join, then that's good enough. We started out with impeachment. Yes, ma'am?
Global Pinoy Diaspora.
Global Pinoy Diaspora Canada. Thanks for reminding me, of course. We started out with a coalition for the impeachment of Sara Duterte. Now we have evolved, but we haven't let go of the issue, but we have evolved into this issue of flood control. And we're going to evolve as we go on. But the good thing is, it's one single stance of the OFW to send support to the Philippines. So let me clarify things. We're being asked, how do you define accountability? How do you define accountability? And the message is clear. Diba? Lahat ng kurakot means anybody who's involved in the corruption from 2016 to 2022 all the way to 2025. And if there's any evidence actually that you can connect some people from Pinoy's time, Benigno Aquino, then so be it. Right? So be it. But for now though, the evidence points to 2016. 2016, 2020, 2022, and 2025. So that means we're going to include both Duterte and Marcos. Are we clear on that? Okay, next question is, are we asking Marcos to resign?
No.
We're not asking Marcos to resign. And yet, we do not forget that all the Marcoses are involved in so much corruption. We do not involve the Honolulu indictment. We do not forget that back in 2003, the Supreme Court of the Philippines actually told them to pay what they owe the Filipino people. We do not forget that even Marcos, the mother, the Romualdez Marcos, has 7 grave cases in Sandigan Bayan to this day.
Hidden wealth too.
Everything, but we do not forget that. But resign, we do not want it yet. Because we do not want to create a vacuum of leadership. Okay. But still though, we want to make Marcos accountable. And that includes BBM himself. Right? And we are marking it on September 21st. September 21st, that was the time when martial law was declared. It was not actually declared, it was written down on September 21st. The next day, September 22, that's the time when the young people, women were raped, young people were tortured, they were killed. And the third day, which is September 23rd, when everything was essentially tortured and named down, that was the time when martial law was declared. That is how treacherous a dictator is. Right? So conceptually, we can actually mark these days: Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. If you look back in the history. So I say that because at the very core of September 21st is a Marcos. So there's no way for us to delineate Marcos from the Duterte. And we now just have the evidence 2 days ago that even back in 2022, evidence points out that the contractors from Davao, the Iskandor families, they actually gave 20 million to the election of Sara Duterte. On the other hand, we have the evidence showing that even the Chavit Simpsons are not only politicians in the north, they're also contractors. And they donate to the Marcoses. And we also have the evidence showing that even the Rudil corporations, which is a donor of Bongbong Marcos, gave 20 million just 3 years ago. So again, that only confirms to the point that when it comes to accountability, it should be Duterte all the way to Marcos. So Marcos is at the core of September 21st. So there's no way for us not to include Marcos in the whole issue. Okay, next question is, when you say accountability, pananagutan, how do you articulate that in legal terms? That's what people ask, right? Number one, and I think it was already mentioned by Tito Amado, number one is restitution. Even in the Bible, when Jesus asked Zacchaeus to say, hey, come follow me, Jesus said, go for restitution. Yung mga inutang mo, bayaran mo. Right? We cannot, and even among the witnesses, we cannot have them, like the Vizcaya family, we cannot have them as state witness without them giving back what they looted out from the government. Right? So restitution. And of course, that includes the Marcoses as well. Right? We always go back to the Marcoses. Number two, we want to empower the ICI, the Independent Commission on Infrastructure. Just want to clarify this. ICI, that they should have the full power to sequester, to collect money, to prosecute, to have the coercive power to run after these people. It's going to be running fast. Because if we cannot have heads rolling down, then we have failed. Right? Third, we're gonna push for accountability by scrapping political dynasty. Political dynasty, at the very core of the corruption that has been happening is political dynasty. From the Marcoses to the Duterte to the Rebullias, even the one who took over Romualdez, the Ds, are all political dynasties. For as long as we have those political dynasties, there's going to be no room for the young people now. There's going to be no room. Let them go and let us build a government that really reflects our vision. So, that being said, as OFWs, we throw our support to the Filipino people in their struggle to be free. There's going to be, I said, one united rally in 15 states in 3 countries tomorrow. That's going to be the start. And definitely, this is not one-time thing. We will push for as long as we should until we see the liberation of the Philippines. Thank you.
Lahat ng sangkot, dapat managot! Lahat ng sangkot, dapat managot! Okay, maraming salamat po. For Migrante Canada, pinapaabot po na mayroon din po silang pagkilos sa Edmonton, Alberta, Montreal, Quebec, Ottawa, Ontario, and then Calgary, Alberta, and Toronto, Ontario. I'm a little bit competitive with Toronto. Because I know there are a lot of Filipinas there. Kaya ba natin? Tomorrow! Yes! Mas marami. Yes, maraming salamat for explaining that, you know, we're not choosing it's either Marcos or Duterte. Everyone, lahat ng sangkot, kailangan imbestigahan, kailangan dumaan sa sistema ng hustisya sa Pilipinas, at kailangan may makulong. Imposible dapat na walang makulong. Imposible. It's just weird na wala dahil hindi na lang bilyon, trilyon na po ang nawawala sa covers ng pambansang budget. Opo. So for last speaker, we will have Mark Perez, Community Health Worker, awarded poet, representing Tama Na.
Magandang hapon po. Napakahalaga po sa akin itong topic na to bilang manunulad at bilang migrante na naka-experience din ng family separation. Yung mga magulang ko ay nag-migrate sa Middle East, sa Canada, sa Hong Kong, at ako naman nandito ngayon. Magsasalita pa ba ako, na-cover na nila lahat. Pero bilang representante po ng Tama Na, kasama ang mga organisasyon ng migrante, Gabriela, Anak Bayan at iba pa. Tama Na po ay Anti-Corruption Alliance na kung natatandaan niyo po ay natatagto nung kasagsagan ng Maharlika Fund, na kung saan pinalak nilang waltasin ang pondo mula sa GSIS at SSS, at matindi pong itong pinigilan ng mga organisasyon sa Pilipinas. Nakita naman po natin kung gaano grabe at kalawak ang korupsyon sa Pilipinas. Gusto ko lang pong ipunto na sa loob lamang ng 3 taon ni Marcos na pagiging presidente, mahigit 17 trilyong piso ang inutang niya sa mga dayuhang kapitalista. Para saan po ito? Para pondohan kuno yung mga public-private partnerships at yung mga yari sa papel at guni-guni o katang-iisip lang na infrastructure projects na nakita gaya ng flood control na nakita naman po natin ngayon ay kanila lang pinagkakakitaan. Higit sa 1 trilyon ang nakulimbat sa mga infrastructure projects sa loob lamang ng 3 taon. Ito ay malaking pondo na napunta sana sa mga pangangailangang pangkalusugan gaya ng doktor, mga nurses, hospital beds na napunta lang sa bulsa ng mga politiko at burokrata sa gobyerno. Kaya hindi po pwedeng magmangmangan ng Pangulo na wala siyang kinalaman sa korupsyon sa bansa. Malinaw po na mula sa 20 taong diktadura ni Marcos Sr. hanggang sa ngayon sa rehimen ni Marcos Jr. ay tinatrato nilang negosyo ang pagpapalakad ng gobyerno. Di rin po lusot ang mga Duterte sa galit ng taong bayan laban sa talamak na korupsyon. Sa ilalim ni Rodrigo Duterte, winaldas ang pondo sa mga kapulisan at militar para ipalaganap lang ang madugong extrajudicial killings. Huwag din natin kalimutan yung 15 milyong biglang naglaho parang bula sa PhilHealth, no? At also huwag natin kalimutan na yung confidential funds ni Sara Duterte ay galing mismo sa opisina ni Marcos Jr. Pasaling po ng manggagawang Pilipino ang naglalakihang buwis habang sadlak sila sa kawalan ng disente at permanenteng trabaho at di makataong sahod. Mga neoliberal na polisiya na nagtutulak sa nakararami ng mga ibang bansa. Sa kabila po nito, napakalaki, gaya nga ng banggit kanina ng kontribusyon ng migrante Pilipino sa ekonomiya ng Pilipinas. Patuloy pa rin silang kinikikilan ng gobyerno, tapos nanakawin lang din pala. Kapal ng mukha, ganun talaga. Kahit di napagtapos ng pag-aaral ang karamihan, alam ng may hirap na Pilipino ang injustisya dahil tagos sa kalamnan ng sikmura nila ang kahirapan. Habang lubog sa baha at lunod sa kahirapan ng marami nating kababayan, nagpapakasasa sa luho at karangyaan ang mga galit na politiko, contractors at burokrata sa gobyerno. Nagbubuwis ng oras at pagod ang mga manggagawang Pilipino habang nagnanakaw lang ang mga korap. Buwis buhay ang manggagawa, nakabuwis ang mga korap. Kailangan pong may managot, sumailalim sa judicial process at maparusahan ang mga mandarambong. Dapat ibasura ang pork barrel at confidential funds. Dapat buwagin ang political na dinestiya. Tama na po, hindi po nila maaaring ipagsawalang bahala ang ating makatarungang galit. Hindi po pwedeng magbinging-bingihan sa ating kolektibong panawagan. Sawang-sawa na tayo sa walang habas na pagnanakaw sa kaba ng bayan at pang-aubuso sa karapatan ng bawat Pilipinong mabuhay ng may dignidad at sapat na trabaho. Di po dito nagtatapos ang ating laban. Kaugnay po ng kahirapan na dulot ng malawakan at sistematikong korupsyon sa gobyerno ay ang kawalan ng tunay na reforma sa lupa at pambansang industrialisasyon. Patuloy po nating alamin ang sitwasyon sa Pilipinas, pagtibayin ang ating mga alyansa at palawakin ang pagkilos para sa pagbabagong hangad natin na makita sa ating bansa. Dumalo at makiisa po tayo sa pagkilos bukas, anibersaryo ng martial law, isang buong araw ng pagkilos, umpisa sa St. Mary's, tapos may alay lakad at sa Fraser Street hanggang sa 1 p.m. cultural rally sa Joy Station. Ang mga salang po ang tunay na bayani. Salamat po.
Yeah.
Maraming salamat sa lahat ng ating tagapagsalita ngayong araw. Muli ang ating mga aktibidad bukas, misa ng 10:30 a.m. sa St. Mary the Virgin South Hill Anglican Church na pangungunahan po ni Reverend Expedito Fariñas. Na 10:30 po yan, pagkatapos po ay may maliit na salo-salo doon. Pagkatapos po nito ay magkakaroon po tayo ng alay lakad o solidarity walk from the 50th to 41st along Fraser Street po dahil marami po tayong mga kababayan na nasa Fraser. No? At pagkatapos nun ay tating imbitahan ng mga kababayan natin papunta sa Joyce Collingwood Station at sa area na yun ay marami din po tayong mga kababayan o kaya naman tayo magpo-programa simula ng 3 p.m. Kaya at pinapaalalahan na din po, sana po ay tayo magsuot ng itim to express our indignation sa kababuyan ng korupsyon sa Pilipinas. No? Kaya, and bring your noisemakers. If you have your own placards, bring your friends at home. And based on the weather reports, you might need to bring your umbrella tomorrow. But yes, bring your friends and family. Dahil issue natin ito lahat, buong pamilya isama natin. Issue natin ito ng iba't ibang henerasyon ng mga Pilipino. Yes. Kaya bukas magkita-kita po tayo, magsisimba po tayo po ay maglalakad sa Fraser, tayo po ay magpuprograma sa Joyce Collingwood Station. Maraming salamat po at binubukas po natin ang mga katanungan. Kung mayroon po mga katanungan ating audience o ang ating media. Maraming salamat sa inyong pagdalo.
Pwede magsalita?
Opo, madam.
Okay. Ito ang tiyan natin. Kung hindi tayo kikilos, sino ang kikilos? Kung hindi tayo kikibo, sino ang kikibo? Ang masasabi ko, nabanggit niyo accountability. Hindi tayo lalabas dito ng wala na tayong contact sa isa't isa, right? Kukunin natin ang mga pangalan, nagpapalitan tayo ng kung ano, telephone, phone number, email, WhatsApp, kung ano. Ang gagawin natin, pararamihin natin parang pyramid scheme. Kung ako may kaibigan, kaibigan ng kaibigan, kamag-anak ng kaibigan, kasi ganito ang pangyayari. Ang mga korakot, they're getting richer.
mga poor, they're getting poor sa Pilipinas. Tayo dito, ako sumasali dito, maganda buhay ko dito, matagal na ako dito. Hindi ko naranasan ng paghirap. Pero ang pamilya ko doon, nararanasan nila. Ang masasabi ko, ganito, maging vigilant tayo, huwag tayong matakot. Kasi ang pagsali natin dito, para magkaroon tayo ng pagbabago. Kasi ayokong 67 na ako ngayon. Hindi ko alam kung hanggang kailan na mabubuhay. Gusto ko may magawa akong maganda para sa ating mga kababayan. Diba?
Yes.
Marami tayong mailalaan na tulong sa kanila para dumami tayo. Kasi pag nakita nila ang boses, hindi lang sa Pilipinas, nadidinig ko ba kami people power mamaya? Kasi sige, Cardinal Amboda Bill, lalabas na ang statement ngayong umaga. Doon sa Camp Crame, ibang grupo yon. Sabihin niyo sa mga kamag-anak niyo, huwag doon pupunta. Maliligaw sila doon. Tapos ito, kaya gusto ko magsalita. Pag natapos ang investigasyon, hindi natin alam kung matutuloy, paliko-liko, paulit-ulit, baka hindi naman walang mangyari. Huwag tayong matulog. Ang gawin natin, saka para magbago, dahil nadidinig natin, bakit binoto ng mga Pilipino ang mga pulpol na politiko? Number 1 ni si Robin Padilla. Nga, pagdating sa siya. Yung si RJ Tarde dahil gwapo. Okay. Yung sa Caloocan naman, doon ako pinanganak, ang dating congresswoman na Dawit, ang naibulsa niya 600 million si Mitzi Kahayon. Napakaganda niya ngayon, baka niretoke yung mukha. Ganyan ang gagawin natin kasi mula sa kapitan ng barangay, tinutukoy natin congressman, matataas na yan. Meron akong kaibigan, ang sweldo daw niya nung araw, 1,000. Isang buwan, binibigay lang daw niya sa barangay namin. Bakit ang dalawang anak may kondominium? Pagkaalis ko, after 2 years, ang lalaki ng kondominium, nabigyan din ng ating, alam niyo na kung sino nagbigay. Mga ganyan, hanggang sa mababa, nangungura ko. Marami silang kolaborasyon. Yan ang itigil natin. Kasi, pagka bumaha sa atin, like sa Makabebe, magbabayad ako ng property tax. Pinauwi ako, nandun ako sa harapan ng property tax, may computer. Wala nang pasada, wala nang tricycle, walang jeep. Lahat na yung empleyado uwi kasi hanggang dito na yung baha. Inabot ako ng ating gabi, hindi ako makabalik ng Maynila. Yun ang susugpuin natin dahil nagbunta si Bam Aquino sa Masantol at sa Makabebe, Pampanga, ang bayan ng aking mga magulang. Grabe ang baha, tuloy-tuloy. Ang mga kamag-anak ko nagsilikas na, hindi na doon nakatira. So, kung hindi tayo kikibo, sino ang kikibo? Panagutin ang mga korakot. Yes. Ikulong.
Yun! Magandang start yun, ha?
Meron akong idadagdag.
Ikulong. Nice, Jody.
Alam mo, usually dito yung mga kababayan natin, ano kaya ang gagawin natin? Ang tanong nila, pare-pareho lang yan.
Yes.
Di ba? Kailangan meron tayong sagot eh. Ako, anong magandang sagot doon?
Anong magandang tinanong
Hindi.
mo?
Discussion. Paano natin sinasagot? There is, the thing with the culture, yung kultura ng pinapalaganap ng mga kurakot is yung kawalang pag-asa na kailangan natin pang-ibabawan. Paano nga naban natin papaliwanag sa ating mga kababayan na hindi mayroong pag-asa at mayroong tayong magagawa para po.
Una, makiisa tayo sa mga organisasyon na lumalaban at nag-expose ng mga katiwalian sa gobyerno. At papaalala ko lang, no, yung overseas registration voting ay nalalapit na November 2025. So ito po ay napakahalaga sa atin na may managot dito at makita kung sino talaga yung nagkasala, yung mga magnanakaw sa gobyerno, para malaman natin kung sino yung hindi dapat iboto ng mga tao. At ikampanya natin yung mga progresibong kandidato na may malinis na track record, no? Gaya na lang ng mga kabayan block. At iba pang progresibong politician. Yan lang po.
pinag-usapan natin ako.
I think magandang tanong yun di ba? Puro kayo rally ang iingay nyo, may na-achieve ba kayo, no? Maraming bagay. Nung nakaraang eleksyon, kami mga volunteer kami, as early as 4 o'clock nandun na kami sa konsulado. Ang sabi nila, ang OFW daw, ang Canada daw, puro DDS. Ang ginagawa nyo. Diba? Sa 12 senators mga kaibigan, 12 senators, ha? Of course, napanala natin si Kiko at si Bam. Pero hindi lang yun. Yung mga progresibo sa Vancouver, Canada, lumabas si Atty. Lung Espiritu, sosyalista. Lumabas si Heidi Mendoza. Pumasok. Lumabas si Teddy. Teddy Casino. Lumabas din. Si Teddy Casino lumabas din. Sa mga senador to, anong ibig sabihin nun? Yung sinasabi nilang perception na DDS, hindi totoo yun. Hindi totoo yun. Sa totoo lang, hindi ko sila makita sa kalye. At kung nakita ko sila, matatakot yun. Dahil alam natin na may paninindigan tayo, hindi tayo nang murakot. Sa totoo lang, when we did the survey, gusto ng mga DDS mismo magkaroon ng impeachment. Bakit? Sabi nila gusto nila makita ebidensya. Then so be it. Kung hindi matuloy ang impeachment sa Senado na pinupush natin, we will push for a People's Tribunal. Online yan. Lahat ng mga dokumento na nakuha natin sa Congress, ilalabas natin. Mapapatunayan natin kung sino si Grace Piatos. Sino yung Maria Rivera na yon. Sino yung lahat ng yon. At malalaman natin na lahat yan peke. Okay. Second achievement pa, and then I'm gonna give the phone. Yung 14 years of struggle against martial law. Remember mga kaibigan, September 21st na pinag-usapan natin, no? Anak ako ng military, I grew up in a military camp. So, na-account ko yung history, tama naman. Si Marcos, ilang effort na wala magkaroon ng constitutional convention para maging diktador siya, it's very convenient na magkaroon ng martial law. Of course, there's a backing from the US, di ba? Pero mga kaibigan, remember, ano yun? Niresist mo yun. Nilabanan yun. Up until 14 years, tinumba natin ang isang diktador sa Pilipinas. So bukas we're gonna remember. We will remember the suffering. But remember to, just like in the Holy Week, no? We remember the suffering, but we do remember the resurrection and liberation of the people. We will hold on to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Amen.
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 Darla.
Kailangan ma-change our mindset, not only for the people here, pero yung mga loved ones natin sa Philippines. Like, every now and then, I would have Zoom conversations with my mga kababata ko. And sabi nung isa, uy Darla, pwede ka nang umuwi, progreso na dito, may McDonald's na, may Pizza Hut na. And we need to change that mindset. Kasi hindi yung sign of progress. The sign of progress is clean water, free health care. Ilan na ba ang mga farmers who actually own the land they till? And ilan ang mga farmers na nakapagpaaral ng mga anak nila? Yun ang sign ng progress. Hindi McDonald's or Jollibee or Pizza Hut. And I think we need to change yung mindset ng mga, those who are close to us. We can start there, one by one. And have those conversations, even sa mga adults, even when kids are there. So kids have a different narrative na naririnig din nila. Right?
It's true.
Professor Laura and then Kevin.
And then go down there.
Dadagdag ko lang dun sa mga nasabi na. Marami naman sa atin nagpapaaral ng mga pamilya, kaibigan, di ba, sa Pilipinas. Mga scholars natin. We have that leverage because we provide the scholarship, no? So, mga simpleng, siguro, sabi nga ni Darla kanina, no? We can use our remittance, the power of the remittance, to change mindsets. Sa akin talaga, education provides the promise. And of course, we might say, teacher ka so siguro, I would approve of education. But I think, ito yung panlaban natin sa tinatawag ko kaninang predatory governance. Tatagalugin ko na, yun yung mandarambong na pamahamahala. Ibig sabihin, gawin mong mangmang at mahirap ang taong bayan, hindi yan papalag. Kasi survival mode na ang mga tao, kaya binoboto pa nila yung mga artista, basketballista, mga politikong alam naman natin puro trapo. So, paano natin talaga masisira ang political dynasty na siyang pilar ng predatory governance? Talagang pag-aaral, hindi lang formal na edukasyon, informal and adult education sa streets, sa lahat ng magagawa. But ito yung panlaban natin sa pang-individual at hindi structural na pagpapaliwanag kung bakit nangyayari to. Take for example, back to Bulacan. Yung ating socio-ecological system, interconnected yan. Sinasabi natin, bumabaha ang Bulacan kasi lumulubog. Bakit may subsidence ang Bulacan? Una, link ang pagiging flood prone sa landslide prone. Bakit landslide prone ang northern municipalities ng Bulacan? Remedios DRT, Doña Remedios Trinidad, Norsagaray, San Miguel, narigyan ng illegal logging. Bakit may subsidence? Kasi lahat ng mga agricultural areas, wala na kaming masyadong porous na landscape. Kaya, puro simentado na dahil sa real estate development. Bakit may real estate development? Ang rising middle class, ang middle class na paunti-unti at saka mga rich families at sinong may-ari ng logging companies at mga real estate development. Wala akong kilalang politiko na hindi din land developer or construction company owner sa Bulacan. So, kung titingnan natin back to the predatory governance, yun yung dapat na pasaka na napunta. So, to evade land reform, babalik na naman ako, no? Structural reasons, ilalagay mo lang yan for residential development. Ngayon, walang social housing ngayon for the poor. So, tingnan natin yung connection ng social at ecological systems natin na again, back to yung bureaucratic rent capitalism na sinasabi ko kanina, where you use your political position to turn them into economic opportunities, di ba? Paano natin yan magagawa ng paraan? Kailangan natin ipakita, kung ano yung Canadian connection sa good governance. Napakalaking development assistance binigay ng Canada through local government support program in the 1990s sa Pilipinas. 2 phases yun, ano? Pero, yun nga, hindi nagbabago kasi hindi mahina ang ating institutional memory. No? Ang critical thinking ng mga civil servants, hindi yan ipapasa. Dahil na hindi tayo nagkakaroon ng critical thinking and analysis. But more than that, more than critical thinking is how do you turn that knowledge and that understanding into action. Anong gagawin natin? Critical thinking is not enough. That has to be turned into actual practical solutions. No, in many many angles. Yan lang po. Idadagdag ko na yung cosmetic surgery sa new way of laundering money.
Siguro, we'll have Kevin and you'll have the audience. But also, para lang hindi natin malito, maybe we should note that maybe yung solidarity groups, Filipino solidarity groups, can call on the Canadian government to look into the assistance it's giving the Philippine government na baka naman nalulustay lang din sa sa corruption. So maybe we'll have Kevin and then we'll have the audience.
Yeah, just on the question of what do you say to the youth, and how do you get them involved? Completely agree with talking about the wins of the movements, from ousting past dictators to U.S. military bases, but really just want to encourage that to the people in the room. Really talk about your experiences back home in the Philippines and what that looked like. I know in Ano Bayan, we've been studying a lot about what the movement of the 60s looked like, especially what did the movement look like to lead up to martial law. And I think there's so many parallels of the issues that were faced by the youth back then to what's happening now. There was a burgeoning nationalist movement, right? People were studying Clare Recto Renato Constantino, the need to define a national identity. So much of the parallels exist today with the youth. You can see how the youth today, with Phil Casa, with Himmi Kabataan, youth are desiring to reconnect with their youth, with their roots, and to understand where they came from. And so I really do think there is a strong need for all of you to talk about what that experience really looked like. Because the youth do want to know what that blueprint to create change is. And I think just that movement alone that was built leading up to martial law, what led to the Diliman commune? How did the youth be able to create the links with the workers to be able to pull something like that off? It's such important lessons for us today. So yeah, really appreciate it.
Pero first, we would like to acknowledge wait mo na si Miss Maita Santiago. Salamat po sa sa aming inyong tahanan dito sa Burnaby. Maraming
I am really interested in Kevin's question. You were asking how we can perhaps share some of the stories. And I don't know if anyone in the panel would be able to share. Pero magandang tanong yon, okay? And then maybe if somebody can answer that, I also have a question after. Should I ask the question now? Maganda po yung nasabi nyo na ano nga bang itsura ng accountability. Kasi what's this? It will give us an idea how to move forward. Kaya ang ano ko naman, so yung tanong na yon, how do we actually do it? And I hope my personal story will add to the discussion. Lumaki ako pinanganak ako at lumaki ako ng Manila. Pero my parents are from the Cagayan Valley and particularly Isabela. And I think yung Governor D is from Isabela dynasties, right? The political dynasties. Opo. So one time nandun po ako sa town ng father ko and it was a political election. So it was at night and people were voting. Tapos yung mga nagbabantay sa munisipyo, dala-dala nila yung mga baril na And my cousins were very scared. Na sabi nila sa akin, kasi I guess opposition yung partido na the family wants to vote for not that status quo. So sabi nila sa akin, huwag kang maingay. And then sabi ko, bakit? Ganun po katindi ang election sa mga remote areas. Until we can actually provide protection for those people. It's not because they're allowing it to happen. That is how oppressive it is. And I think we need to understand that. It is not as easy as, wag na nating ipatuloy ang political dynasties. The political dynasties are there because they have the power to oppress other people. And lives are at risk. So I think we need to add that in the narrative and in our, I don't know if you could call it critical thinking or just continue talking about it, right? But I am one person and I'm not always in this space where I'm able to relate a personal story. But that is actually what's happening in many remote areas in the Philippines.
Survival mode.
Talagang survival mode.
We'll take many questions from the audience, so like the panel can also, but we'll also have to limit our discussion. Then Ms. Maita Carville will give the floor to Ms. Maita Santiago.
I think na-mention na ni Mark about kung sa November para mag-ano ng yung mga sa voters, right? And then so, ikwento ko lang kasi nung panahon na nasa Pilipinas ako, I don't care about sino iboboto ko. Whoever na nakikita ko sa TV, right? Yun ang iboboto ko. Talaga, yun lang. Ganun kasimple lang yun. Or kung sino yung nagpaayos ng daan namin. Ganun kasimple lang talaga. Siyempre, nung dumating ako dito, na-educate na ako, di ba? And then, so, ang kailangan natin gawin is to educate the voters. Ako, ang ginawa ko, nung 12 senators, nag-reach out ako sa mga relatives ko. Isa-isa ko yun. Diba? Bakit hindi mo iboboto itong mga political dynasty na to? Bakit ito ang iboboto mo? Diba? So yun yung mga ginawa ko. At na ano naman, na nagawa, na educate sila. Tapos ang social media is very important. Tayo dito, lahat tayo alam natin ang nangyayari, di ba? Pero how about yung mga tao nasa labas? Paano tayo mag-reach out sa kanila? Through social media. The good thing about now is ang dami ng mga, like sila Christian is there at kung sino-sino pa, marami na sila na nag-educate sa atin. Pero we need more people. Especially si Darla, ang galing-galing niya. Ang dami mong sinabi, nag-touch ako sa'yo. Si Kevin, si Mark. Di ba, ang daming magagaling dito na pwede kayo mag-start ng social media. Kasi yung mga 1 minute lang, may educate nyo yung tao. Like si Ago, ang dami niyang followers. May 30,000 siyang followers sa isang Facebook. Sa isang Facebook naman is 50. Sa TikTok namin, meron kami almost 2,000. So, let's educate yung people na baka pwede tayo mag-reach out kasi magagaling tayo eh. Yun lang po.
Yes!
Maybe lang siguro yung question about paano nyo tuturo sa mga kabataan. I know this is short forum and I probably need to give you like a minute each. Pero dahil hindi matatapos dito, 1 minute lang yung sagot nyo muna.
Well, ako senior citizen na ako, no? Pero yung nag-focus ako parati sa aking Facebook. Last election, sinabi ko ron kung sino iboboto ko. Ha? Meron naman akong nainganyo sa probinsya namin, sa Pampanga. Ganon siguro. Bakit ko iboboto ito? Walang track record.
May resibo.
May resibo. Ganon lang kasimple. At saka, ako naniniwala pa rin ako na makakamtan natin ito. Naisip ko, Mr. Rago, province by province, ilaganap natin. I-encourage natin yung mga OFW sa buong mundo. Pero tayo, pag-cover, umpisan na natin. Ha? Ako, anda pa rin ako. Kasi yan ang nagpapalakas sa akin. Maski na senior na ako. Yan lang po.
Yes, yes. Laban.
Simulan na natin.
Pinali na to, pinali.
Meron natin sa countryside na comment kanina. Napakahalaga sa atin na pagtuunan ng pansin. Yung paano rin dito, yung gobyerno mismo ng Canada, halimbawa, mayroong visiting forces agreement sa Pilipinas na kailangan nating alamin mismo at labanan na sabihin sa Canada na yung mga pera at armas na ibibigay lang nila sa Pilipinas ay gagamitin din sa mga Pilipino, lalo na sa countryside, sa kanayunan. No? So, kailangan nating i-expose yun. Ganun kahalaga yung online platform na kailangan nating ipakita kung gaano talaga kinukurakot sa militar, sa infrastructure project, yung mga pera na napupunta sa gobyerno. At mas mahalaga na kailangan natin pagtuunan ng pansin kung nasa talaga yung mga Pilipino sa mga komunidad natin. Kailangan natin lumubog sa kanila, kausapin sila, alamin kung ano yung mga hinaing nila at mga concern nila at tulungan sila na bumuo ng kampanya at hamigin sa ating mga organisasyon para mas malawak tayo, mas malaki, mas malakas. Yun lang po.
Okay.
1 minute is that? So, usapin po ng solidarity. Kasi hindi kami yun sa compatriots, no? So, the International Coalition for Human Rights in the Philippines, it has currently, we have the member institutions of the Ecumenical Faith Community, the United Church of Canada, Kairos, and the Anglican Church of Canada, as well as partnership with the labor unions. Recently, you must have heard that Carney, Prime Minister Carney invited Marcos to Canada. So, naging malaking negotiating factor of including our members, no, institutions and also labor unions to write letter, and we have worked with them on of course the information. There are also allied members academe in Montreal, sa University of Montreal, who gives, yung talagang, may mga masteral students sila who would be working on research. Kasi pag tayo nakikipag-usap sa Global Affairs Canada, we cannot just say, oh, ganito, according to ganito. But it should be a brief, no? We have a policy brief. I could give you that, and then now, currently we have the VFA, the Visiting Forces Agreement on Indo-Pacific Strategy. Meron din tayong ginawang brief policy dito para makipag-usap sa ating mga partners and ating mga members, no? So ito yung mga kaganapan na patuloy sa ating mga ito yung mga non-compatriots, mga Canadians na nakikibahagi at sumusuporta. Ang panawagan natin, we have to recognize the Filipino people's self-determination, no?
Yes.
Kung ano yung kanilang pinili na tahakin, kung ano yung paniniwala nila, kung paano ang struggle ng isang Pilipinas, ng isang Pilipino, we recognize that. So it's the self-determination pa rin.
Just to piggyback on what Beth was saying, I think we have a special role for us people outside of the Philippines because of the relative freedom that we have. And just to respond to what Kevin was saying, what happened to those FQS people? Those FQS students actually who flew to the United States, I work with them. And these are the same people who actually filed a case against the Duterte government years ago when everybody was afraid. We told them, you cannot do it, we will do it in the Philippines. Now formally, we have a case against Duterte and the Energy Secretary over the case of Manampaya. Secondly, when everybody was afraid back in 2017, pinapatay lahat eh. I told them, we will export the resistance right at the heart of the US Congress. We will tell the world that EJK is happening in the Philippines. So I'm saying this is because we have the role as solidarity people. We have the role as OFW youth. If they can do it in the Philippines, then it is at most important that we do the support that we can send them in every way.
Maraming salamat sa ating speakers. Marami pa tayong gagawin na ganito dahil mukhang matagumpay, no? And then, maybe we can ask the youth, maybe they can host parang your elders to tell the stories, ganyan, of, but 1 minute? 1 minute, okay. We will give 1 minute more sa ating mga speakers. But yes, the youth, please host your elders to tell their stories and to learn from them.
Yes, mga youth, please. Personally, I've learned a lot from our youth. Baby boomer ako, no? So I've learned a lot from our millennials and our Generation X. Yeah, when I came to Canada, I had 2 bags. On one hand, I had my clothes, and on the other, I had the quiet weight of utang na loob, hiya, pakikisama. And I held on to those beliefs because I didn't want to lose my Filipino-ness in the diaspora. But these, over time, they become burdens and they do not fade, but are handed down to our younger generation in the diaspora, shaping how they carry their own mental health struggles. So I've learned to listen to our youth, and this is what I learned from them. Tita-tita yung mental health ng parents ko na napunta na sa akin, and it's generations of mental health. And yeah, we don't talk about it in the Filipino community. It's such a stigma, but it is something that we need to start talking about. So yeah, I look forward to mga youth. Yes, invite us to your forums, please. We have a lot to learn from them.
So here I'm wearing a different hat as the outgoing president of the board of NPC3. I think there is a space that we can all create in answering your question, Kevin, for intergenerational mutual learning. And I think we need to go back really to history, not just in the 1960s, but I think in that war period of the 1920s and the 1930s, because we're seeing the rise of autocracies around the world. The new liberal world order that had been created in the post-war period is practically eroded, if not gone. And therefore, I always considered the arts, artistic expression, including comedy, as the last frontier and the best antidote to the rise of autocracies and authoritarianism. That's why they had to kill Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel, right? And this is really, you know, the start of why people are afraid of comedy, because they really realize the power of comedy as, you know, the veiled truth. And of course, our poets, our artists, and autocrats are afraid of arts and artists precisely because they hold truth to power. And they can do this bravely with our support. So, on that note, if you could support our artists, our cultural workers in the city and beyond, please do come up. And if I might do a shameless plug of NPC3's latest production, we're co-sponsor of Lasa ng Imperyo, a Tagalog adaptation of A Taste of Empire by Giovanni C., which talks about identity, food, culture, and the role of empire in our culinary traditions. So please do come out sa North Vancouver, October 9 to 19, Presentation Theater. Maraming salamat po. Carmela Season is the translator and actor of the play.
Yes, thank you. Yun nga, we will hold other activities where the youth can learn from on generation, learn history maybe. But now, for now, we have to end the program. But before that, si Ms. Maita Santiago po, mula sa ating bibigyan po dito sa Ruby, ang ating konsehal dito sa Berkeley.
Salamat ako. Maraming salamat sa pagkakataon na mag-ambag. Yeah, I was just planning to share a little bit. So I'm a proud Bulakenyan. Okay. I was born in the Philippines. We moved here when I was little. Sorry. So naano lang ako na I felt the need to speak because we talked earlier about maybe sharing some personal stories, right? So just give me a moment. So yesterday was my mom's birthday.
Yolanda.
Sorry, what's it? So we've been here since the 70s. Yesterday was her birthday. She passed away for a long, long time, and up to recently, her dream and her wish was to be buried in the Philippines. And we were making plans for that. We were making plans for that with my cousins back in Bulacan. And we're gonna fly out there, and we're talking about, where we're gonna put her with her parents and her brother. And then my cousin who was visiting said, "Ay, teka muna. Dadalhin niyo sa Pilipinas. Eh, laging baha doon." So doon talaga tumimo sa akin, right? And at first, syempre sabi ko, laging baha. Laging baha, hindi yan pwede. Tapos lumabas yung mga balita tungkol sa nangyayari ngayon sa Pilipinas. Sabi ko, nako, hindi ito, this is man-made, right? And, sobrang na talaga. And so doon tumimo sa akin na kahit kaano katagal tayo sa Pilipinas, right? Siyempre nandiyan marami sa atin, gusto natin makauwi. Either forever or for a vacation or something, right? So, so in that way, I think people are personally affected, and we need to speak out. Kung gusto pa natin na meron pang Pilipinas na mauuwian. So yun yung isa. yung susunod, and nais ko lang din iambat, is I think that we're in a very special moment right now. And I commend all of you, right, for stepping forward to take this on. I think we're in an incredible moment, and we have to meet that moment. And you know, I think there's a opportunity for us to reach out and to form, and I see that you've started to do that, to reach out and form that broad alliance of Filipinos and solidarity friends who together will help amplify our voice to say this is not right. You know, this is wrong. It touches many issues, and I think, you know, again, it's that's just for the Philippines, not including pa yung nangyayari sa mundo, right? Sa United States, yung pinakita ni Professora, just today, di po ba, may malaking protesta, draw the line. So this is, you know, this is us drawing the line. We need to draw the line. We need to do that outreach. We need to bring people out. We need to organize, organize, and organize. And we need to bring these people that we've organized to the powers that be so that they hear, right? That we're not just going to be talking to each other day in and day out, right? We're not just, you know, doing this kasi wala tayong ibang gagawin. We're doing this because we want change and we demand change. And that's just for me, isang Bulacania na nanapunta dito. Salamat.
Fantastic as with your story as well. Maraming salamat sa lahat ng dumalo dito. Kaya mayroon tayong mga kailangan i-edit din ng mga videos to share, also to reach yung pinakamalawak na number ng Filipino dito sa Canada, dito pa lang sa Metro Vancouver, actually, and then Canada. Napaka-matagumpay ito, so congratulations sa atin lahat dito. Can I just ask help for parang attendance and registration, and you can leave your number or your where we can contact you para yun nga, the continuing to work together para dito sa mga different issues, because we will not stop sa September 21. Papatuloy tayo ng ating mga gawain para laban sa korupsyon tungo sa pagpapaunlad ng Pilipinas. Maraming salamat.
Lahat ng kurakot,
ikulong, ikulong, ikulong!
Lahat ng kurakot,
ikulong, ikulong, ikulong!